both Ms. Follett and Ms. Fox are excused.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes from March 14th, 2022?
I'll move.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. Any corrections, changes? Chris?
Yes, a couple. Page 3, condition 10 was your motion, Brian, but I believe you meant to say shall include electric conduit for EV, not 3 vehicles, but EV.
For 3 EV vehicles.
You didn't mention a number. It's just EV sounds like 3. I think somebody just took number 3.
Okay.
Page 4, the main motion for approval of the Slindy project, under the main motion before the findings of fact, it should say for 161 unit mixed use, not 191.
That's true, yes.
And then on page 5, condition number 4, it's a little hard to understand, so I'd suggest we go, a second access point shall be added for the southern entrance to the northern building in the proposed phase 2, and then change it to from the proposed common driveway. Because where it says prior to construction commencing, they'll be doing construction, they'll be getting things ready, but then as they build that private driveway, we want that second access point when they start cutting off the other one. So it won't be prior to construction, but sometime during the construction, or just maintain that second entrance, other than when they're building it.
Mm-hmm.
Hello.
Okay. Anything else?
No, that's it.
Great. All those in favor of approving the minutes as amended?
All right.
Minutes are approved. Do we have any appearances this evening from anyone who is not part of a public hearing?
I don't think Zoom can hear us right now.
Okay. I'm experiencing deja vu.
And could we get
That sounds good.
this screen as well, like the video for the room?
Only the lights started flashing when that happened.
I know. There we go.
Yeah, it's fun up here.
There goes your Christmas.
I hope that's not doing that in your ear, Elisa.
Oh, no.
Thanks for your patience. If you're waiting for us here, we just have some technical difficulties.
If you could hear us.
If you can hear us, that's right. Do we know what we have now? Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Sorry.
Hal, is it you?
Testing.
No?
Is it working?
It's okay.
Good evening. This is Jeff Deasons with Premier Labor. I've had to call in. I've had some issues, internet with the Zoom. So I am here. Thank you.
In case anyone's curious. We'll see if we can adjust for the rest.
Too bad we didn't get that on reverberation.
The cough?
Oh yeah, that would be great.
This must cut into your estimate, Rob.
Was that?
This must be cutting into your estimate.
Yeah, who has the over-under tonight?
I don't estimate anything under 2.5 hours anymore.
Under.
We'll see.
Let's try this one more time.
Okay. Can you hear? Fantastic. Thank you for your patience, everyone. We've had some technical difficulties here. I believe that we were... Is that, I was asking, the question, is there anyone here to speak during the appearance section that would not otherwise be part of a public hearing this evening? And as far as I know, looking at the screen here, our Zoom screen, I don't believe that's the case. I believe everybody on the screen is here. And Lissa, I assume you don't know of anybody that's interested? Okay, so we'll close the appearance section. Go to number 5A, public hearing on the request by Go Right Way for approval of a zoning permit for site modifications for new use at 2801 Industrial Drive, case number 2-003-2022. Welcome. This is. Please introduce yourself as if you were at the podium, and then feel free to share anything you'd like to this evening for the public hearing portion of this.
Sure. I'm Steve Fazlovic. I'm the Vice President of Operations at Go Right Way, and I'm one of the lead managers for that facility that will be in Monona on Industrial Drive.
Good evening. I'm Jay Craig with MSI General, the applicant representing Go Right Way. We have prepared a plan that we submitted to Douglas, addressing, I believe, all the issues that were raised during the pre-hearing, and we're available for any questions.
Would you like to highlight those things that might have been shifted some from the pre-hearing?
Sure,
For
be
the purpose
happy
of the
to.
general public, among other things?
Certainly, would be more than happy to. There was some discussion about identifying more specifically the Go Right Way tenant employee parking, which we've highlighted in the new plan. There was also some discussion about identifying more specifically the ingress and egress into the parking areas, which have been identified with rows and verbiage now on the plan. We've also identified two temporary lawn areas that will be seeded that are currently in a state of gravel and dirt where a couple of buildings had been previously removed and had been left really kind of unfinished. So we plan to grade those areas out and seed those temporarily, so there'll be green space until such time that the Go Right Way's operations expand and they require those areas for parking. We have also identified two areas on the building exterior where we may put some additional lighting for the parking areas if it's determined it is needed. The lighting is currently working and is operational on the west side of the facility. So if we do need some additional lighting, we've identified two areas where we'll do some wall packs on the existing building. And that really is a summary of the additions, I believe.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody else here to speak during the public hearing portion of this proposal request? Okay, we'll close the public hearing and go to consideration of action 5B on a request by Go Right Way for approval of a zoning permit for site modifications for new use at 2801 Industrial Drive, case number 2-003-2022. Chris, would you like to start us off?
Sure. First, I assume you've seen staff's recommendations. Is that a yes?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And you saw the recommendation for the landscaping work to be completed by June 28th? And that's
yes.
And that's reasonable for you?
Yes.
Okay. I assumed it was. I think it's a good recommendation. You want to get spring planting in, but I just wanted to make sure. Okay. I have a couple items. One, it doesn't, I think your letter says it, but it doesn't say anything in our conditions about the repairs to that detention basin, so I assume we'd want to get those done by the same date, so that's functional. For me, okay, I'll back up. If this were a permanent approval, this is, but where you're going to have a permanent use for that whole building, we would likely have a lot more conditions. We'd want to know where every tree was going to be planted, what trees and all this. But what we see right now, I think, is a use to get you on your feet, to get going until you decide what you're going to be doing with the rest of the site and the building. So I think what you'll see tonight is some less stringent comments that you would normally see. I just want you to be aware of that. So when you do come back and have a final thing, and we'll look very specifically at how many trees and bushes and plants and exact lighting plans. So for me, for tonight, I'm happy with just adding a condition that we have the final lighting reviewed and approved by staff, the final site cleanup reviewed and approved by staff, because I think we're all comfortable with where we're at on that, unless somebody else wants to get more specific on the landscaping plan. One thing that concerned me when I drove by today is it's starting to look already a little bit like a storage yard, and I didn't believe that was your intention. There's some buses there that are parked where it's supposed to be, or where you're showing it to be a temporarily seated area. There's one bus like a billboard parked right parallel to the road, not probably 15 feet from it. I'd be concerned if that's what your intention is to use this site for. There's a very nice office building immediately to your east. So I don't think they'd be too happy with the storage yard right there out by the road. So could you explain your plans for that a little bit?
I suspect, and Steve, jump in if I misspeak, but I suspect what you're seeing is an area in transition as we're moving out of the leased space over to the new building that Go Right was acquired. Is that right, Steve?
Yeah, that would be correct. We're just in the process of moving over some equipment right now, and we're also in the process of cleaning up the property. So the equipment may be placed temporarily in different locations. I know that the trash cleanup is already started and is underway. We're also doing some temporary silt fencing to just keep the runoff from in the drive area. So so those vehicles that you're seeing there were at our other location located off Park Street. So I would expect that over the next several days there's going to be some vehicles coming in and out of that area.
Understood. Your plan didn't show any full-size school buses, which is what these are. So where are you intending to have them permanently or in the near future?
So the total mix of vehicles will remain the same, depending on the actual requirement for the contract at that time. It may be a mix of mini coaches or school buses that are outfitted to transport people. So it'll be a mix of, the 11 will be either a mix of mini buses or school buses that are outfitted for shuttle transportation.
But your 11 stalls aren't nearly large enough for those school buses.
The school buses are about the same size as a mini coach, depending on which size. So the mini coaches range anywhere from 24 passenger to about 33 passenger.
I would probably disagree with the statement. They're the same size. You have the mini coaches there and the school buses, so I guess I'd just leave it as another condition that the inactive vehicles that are just being stored are to the rear of the property, so it doesn't start looking like a storage yard out front. And that, you know, if you feel you can get that where you're saying you can get it, fine, but I just don't think we want to start seeing I'm trying to struggle for the right word. I guess a storage yard would be the best word, to have a storage yard in front of the building.
Understood.
Okay.
Okay.
That's it for me. Again, like we said before, I think it's a great use for the area. I'm excited about getting cleaned up, which is why I'm less worried about having very stringent conditions right now, because I know you're going to have a capital outlay to get that thing back into shape and get it back to where it should be.
Great. Thank you, Chris. Patrick?
Hi. I don't really have much to add to what Chris mentioned. Have you had a chance to check the functionality of the stormwater retention basin yet, with all the rain that we had in the past week or so?
We've not.
Okay. Just curious. Other than that, I don't have anything to add.
Okay. Brian?
Nothing else to add.
Okay. Rob?
Yeah, not a lot to add. I would just say once you move forward with improvements on the parking lot, especially, I just noticed that the 15 employee parking spots there, you would have to break that up and put in a tree island eventually if you were to restripe or surface that. 12 is the max you can have without a break. So, but other than that, I have no issues.
Okay.
Thank you.
If I may,
Yes.
just a comment from staff. It was not captured in time for the staff report, but Brad Brune of City Staff mentioned that because the area of disturbance, I think it was just under 16,000 square feet, it's greater than 4,000, so it's going to require an erosion control permit as determined. So it was suggested that that be added as a condition of approval as well. Thanks.
Do you want to read your recommendations since I rudely went by you again tonight?
So I have the three recommendations as written by staff. Condition 4, the detention pond to be brought up to shape with the June 28th, 2022 compliance date. Lighting to be reviewed and approved by city staff, as well as the inactive vehicles to be stored to the back of the building to be condition number 6, and then condition 7 with commissioner approval to be the erosion control permit reviewed by staff.
Yeah, great. So, unless there are any other comments, do I have a motion? Yes.
I'll make one comment, then a motion.
Okay.
So the erosion control permit is because you're actually seeding that area, so it's something that just to make sure there's not a washout while you're doing it. It's not a water quality permit. And then the last condition I'll put on the approval will be one that really protects you, that talks to the fact that we are requiring you to temporarily cover up that impervious until you know what you're going to do with the property in the future, because our ordinance doesn't allow a gravelled area out front unless it's fenced in, and we wouldn't allow a storage yard out front. So what it does is it allows you to get the site in shape for now, but mentions that we've required that impervious to be temporarily covered. So there's a record that way of the impervious being there. So I'll move approval as written by staff with conditions 1 and 2. Condition 3, new plantings and seeding, insert that, shall be coordinated with city staff with work completed by June 28th. Condition 4, the repairs to the detention basin be completed by June 28th. Condition 5, the final lighting reviewed and approved by staff. Condition 6, the final site cleanup reviewed and approved by staff. Condition 7, that inactive vehicles and vehicles that don't fit in the approved stalls be parked in the rear of the site. Condition 8, that the applicant will need to get an erosion control permit. And condition 9, that the existing impervious gravel areas shall be topped with topsoil and seed temporarily until those areas come back for a final proposal.
Do you want to add another condition around this one?
No.
Rob?
No, I think that'll get handled with the
Okay.
final approval.
Okay. Just want to make sure. All right, so I have a motion on the floor. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. Any other discussion?
Any questions from the applicants?
Any questions from the applicant?
Nope.
No? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Motion carries. Thank you, gentlemen. Again, welcome.
Yeah. Good luck.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Welcome.
Thanks.
We'll move to 6C, public hearing on the request by Premier Labor, represented by La Crosse Sign Group for new signage. Sorry. Where am I going? I jumped over. Sorry. New business. Public hearing on the request by Premier Label for approval of a zoning permit for a new use following a period of discontinuation at 2001 West Broadway, case number 2-005-2022. And who is here for Premier?
Jeff Deason.
Great, Jeff, welcome.
Thank you.
The floor is yours.
All right. Well, appreciate the opportunity to speak with you folks tonight. Yeah, we saw this site was open, and yeah, pretty excited that it was available to us. And the location is fantastic. Everything we're kind of looking for. It's right on the bus line. Great exposure, great landmarks around the area. So much of our business is recognizability, easy access, our brand name, with the possibility of some signage. So yeah, we saw this opportunity, and it's kind of like perfect for us and everything we would hope to have.
Okay. Is there anyone else here to speak on the public hearing portion of this? Here, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing and go to 6B, consideration of action on the request by Premier Labor for approval of a zoning permit for a new use following a period of discontinuation at 2001 West Broadway, case number 2-005-2022. Doug?
Thank you. So as mentioned by the applicant, this would be, the request here is to relocate the existing staffing business from the current location at 2800 Royal Avenue to 2001 West Broadway. They provide short-term laborers on a fill-in basis. The proposal is for approximately 2,000 square feet of the building, which will be about 25% of the total square footage. The property itself is located within the Community Design District, the CDD, and zoning permits are reviewed by the Plan Commission in that district. The use appears compatible with adjacent tenants within the building, which include a video production studio and an office cleaning company. The future land use map within the comprehensive plan shows this parcel as commercial. There are no exterior building modifications planned, with only minimal office build-out on the interior as well. The applicant expects 3 internal staff members to be on the site at any one time, along with up to 5 temporary staff members. They don't expect any more than 10 people in the office at any time. The building itself has a total of 50 parking stalls, including 4 ADA accessible stalls. Both times I was out there on the site, the utilization was very low, and it does not appear that the Parking will be an issue. As mentioned, some of the staff will be arriving by the nearby bus routes. It was also mentioned in the letter of application that some will be arriving by bicycle, and I did not see any provisions for bike parking, so it may be something the Commission chooses to discuss there, possibly the addition of, or the recommendation of the addition of some more formal parking. Hours of operation would be 5 days a week between the hours of 6 a.m. and 5 p.m., with it being expected to be busiest between 8 a.m. and 3 p.m. There is a separate signage application that would be following this, pending any possible approvals. Following that, staff recommendation is approval of the zoning permit with the 2 conditions of approval as stated in the staff report. Thank you.
Thank you. Rob, would you like to start us off on this one?
Yeah, I don't have any comments. I think it's appropriate use, and glad you're staying in Monona.
Thank you very much. We love it here.
All right. Thank you. Ryan?
Yeah, I think it's a great use for the space. Regarding the comment of bicycle parking, I think I would ask the applicant if, at their current location, if there's a concern with anybody arriving by bicycle and not having access for parking.
We have a couple different bike racks currently at our location. That's something, if that's something needed, we can definitely make that happen. Yeah, it's a seasonal thing too with bikes. Obviously, wintertime not a whole lot, but obviously spring, summer, and fall, there's a few guys that come around on their bikes, and we can accommodate that for sure.
Okay, that's it for me.
Patrick?
Yeah, I don't have anything either. Glad you're staying in Monona, and just wish you provided labor for restaurants as well. Just no, thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Okay, Chris?
I think it's appropriate use. Great to see them here. The one thing I would suggest we might want to have as a condition that if in the future there's an issue with parking, that we have the ability to come back, revisit it, and possibly have some conditions over it. And the reason I say that is hopefully they're wildly successful and they have a lot of people coming here. And I was there. The site's in terrific shape. New asphalt. It's not parked very full, but there's always a different mix of people. You never know how that's going to work out. And I can see with the temporary help where you could have a big rush of cars coming in the morning. I don't know that, but I think it's fine right now for what they're proposing. I'd like to see us retain the ability to revisit that if it becomes an issue.
Okay. Great. Do I have a motion?
Move approval with recommendations as written by staff 1 and 2. Number 3, that the parking may be revisited by Plan Commission if major issues arise, at which time the Plan Commission may require additional conditions. And condition 4, that there's a dedicated area with bike racks.
Okay. Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second from Patrick. Any other comments? Any questions from the applicant?
No.
No? That all made sense to you? Okay. That being the case, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Now we're going to move to 6C, public hearing on the request by Premier Labor represented by La Crosse Sign Group for new signage at 2001 West Broadway, case number S-003-2022. This is your opportunity to speak to the signage.
You bet. Thank you again. Yeah, so much of our clientele, some of our business, the word is spread. It's word of mouth sometimes. Like if, hey, Premier Labor has work, let's go check it out. And big part of us is kind of our brand, our signage. They can see us. Like I said, there's great landmarks around that area. The more exposure we have, I think, the better for us, of course. Because these days, as you mentioned, like with the helping with restaurants and stuff, we have more jobs than people pretty much right now. We're just like everybody else. yeah, the exposure, the signage that we proposed, it would just help us tremendously. To just get the word out there and get people to work, basically.
Okay. Great. We'll close the public hearing. We move to 6D, consideration of action on the request by Premier Labor, represented by La Crosse Sign Group, for new signage at 2001 West Broadway, case number S003-2022. Doug?
Thank you. So the proposal here is for 2 new wall signs. Both will be the same size, dimension, and design. One would be facing north, parallel to the West Broadway frontage road. The other facing west, parallel to Gishalt Drive. This is in the Community Design District, the CDD, which does allow for wall signs on the building facade abutting a public street frontage. Additional signs can be approved if for additional street frontages too. So the fact that this does face both is allowable. Wall signs are allowed. You're allowed 1 square foot per foot of building's facade, and the building itself measures approximately 90 feet by 120 feet. The frontage, as delineated in the signage application, is just over 22 feet and about 18 feet as well. And so both of the signs, as proposed, fall within that one square foot of signage for 1 foot of frontage. The space that the applicant would actually be leasing is on the southeast corner, but as is the case with the other tenants, the signage is facing the 2 streets for the visibility, so that does appear appropriate. With that, the staff recommendation is approval with the finding of fact and conditions of approval as listed in the staff report. Thank you.
Thank you. Chris, do you want to start us on
Sure.
this one?
I think the signs look good. The size looks appropriate. I like the channel letters. I have some concerns about the locations, and here's what they are. Our ordinance doesn't allow off front building signage, and this isn't anywhere near their entrance. And I understand needing visibility, and I understand needing either the north, the west, whichever one they think is the most important. But I would be incredibly confused if I came to this building and tried to find them. I'd be looking under both signs. I'd never find them. I think one of these signs needs to be over their actual facade of what they're actually renting, because they're opposite where this business is, and I think that's going to create a lot of confusion, much less having 2 that really aren't in your frontage. So for me, I would let the applicant pick either the north side or the west side, whichever one I do the north side because it fronts right on the frontage road and the Broadway. So I think that would give them plenty of visibility, and then when people are there searching for them, and you'll have a lot of new people coming to a business like this, they'll actually, when they search around the building, they'll see that sign, they'll know where to enter.
What would you say to that? Directed to the applicant.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's looking at the signage here. Of course, we would like as many signs as we could, but we understand the situation. But yeah, I think probably the north. I mean, if we had to choose, I guess looking at the diagram here, the one on the north end of the building would probably make the most sense. I would agree with that.
Okay. Great. Patrick?
Nothing to add other than it makes sense to have signage over the facade that you're occupying. But letters are fine. Again, the channel letters, it's good. It's looks like it belongs on the building. Yeah, it's good.
Okay. Brian?
The only clarification I would have is I understand number 1 sign would still be on that north side. Would the number 2 sign move to be above the entrance on the south side of the building?
Yes, but I would word it so it's above the entrance / facade of the south side, because if you look at the entrance, it's on their far left edge of what they're renting. So they put it over the area they're renting, which would favor towards that entrance, but if they put it totally over the entrance, then they're taking somebody else's area too.
Right.
That would make sense to me to have it right there. There are no signs back on that part right now, so I think if I were looking, and as soon as I started driving around that building, I'd find it, and I know that entrance is where I come in.
Yeah. Makes sense to me.
Okay. Rob?
Yeah, that makes sense to me. The only question I would have is that since it would be a sign that wouldn't be facing a frontage, would they want it to be the same size? I mean, it's going to be cheaper. I mean, like, why would they want to max out the sign size if it's not facing a road?
It looks good with the building. The signage looks appropriate.
I mean, if it's smaller, it falls within our sign code as well.
Would you like to keep it the same size because of the appropriateness to the building? The second sign that's not on frontage?
Is this to me, the applicant?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I believe so. We had talked about, there was a blue awning above that back door.
Yeah.
We had talked about having a Gallagher tenant awning actually create an awning for us back there with our lettering on it and not the sign. So I don't know if that's not proposed here. So I don't know if that's a whole separate issue we'd have to talk about at a different time or not. Or if we just go with this sign here that's, like you said, in the west end and put that behind. I mean, we're open to that also, for sure.
Right. Okay. Did you? Yeah, Chris.
Yeah, I was going to say, I agree that I keep it the same size, because you go out there, if you're coming up, what's the road that, come from Florida to Core back towards the frontage road, this is very visible. When you're coming out the McDonald's exit, this is very visible on that south side of the building, and then I would know where this business is. So I would keep it that size. As far as an awning, that's a fairly small awning, Doug. I got to look as if that's a staff approval or not to have a small something in an awning. It'd be a pretty small sign. It's not something you'd see driving up the road.
Yeah.
True. Yeah. Good point.
Okay.
But you have great visibility on that south end too, from all the people that are coming and going from that entire Southtown area. And there's no signage
Absolutely.
on the building there.
Okay. Great. Do I have a motion?
I'll move approval with recommendation, finding of fact by staff, conditions 1 and 2, as written by staff, and condition 3, that the approval is for one sign on the north face and then the second sign at the facade and entry of the business.
Great. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. Yeah, Chris.
I just want to explain, Doug, the reason I worded it that way is how it'll depend on how they want to fit that sign with relation to that awning, but so it shows the facade of the business. You'll know when you walk up there where the entry for that business is.
That makes sense.
Great.
Definitely.
Okay. So I have a motion and a second. Any other comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. You're all set. Thank you very much.
Appreciate your time, folks.
Thanks.
Okay, we move to reports of staff and commission members. Staff report regarding status.
Thank you. A couple updates. It's going to be a busy April for the commission. There's a trend here. The April 11th meeting, the Owen Road project, the Slindy project, will be returning with the revised GDP. There's been some
GDP?
Yes. Yeah, they've made some edits, and they did not pursue council approval. So they've made some edits to do that and sort of address some of the comments that came up. There'll also be a couple more zoning permits as well for new businesses. So they'll just be most likely one read with a consideration. A couple small businesses opening in different spots across the city. Just another update as well, the Monona Garden project, I'm expecting to go to Public Works Committee on April 4th. They've been working on the roadway design and the parking and things like that, and I think the consensus here, and certainly from staff, was that they go and get Public Works buy-in now for that. There's been some revisions to the curb and the roadway and things as well, so I think it's enhance the project, and we'll see what the Public Works Committee thinks of that. So I'm expecting that would return to Plan Commission, possibly late April or into May for a consideration. That's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Updates on diversity, equity, and inclusion? Anything?
Nothing from staff.
Okay. Nothing here either. Updates on sustainability. I would just report again that on the 23rd, which is Earth Day, the Sustainability Committee is hosting the second annual big recycling event at Ahuska Park from 8 a.m. to 12 noon. It's electronics, appliances, styrofoam. There's a whole long list. It's available on the city's website and also on Sustainable Monona Facebook. If you and it's as it was last year, it's a totally touch-free event. You drive through with your car, and volunteers will take anything you have out of your car without you having to leave the vehicle. We had over 200 cars last year, and the recycling center has said that they expect numbers to double in year 2. So I forgot how many times. What was it? Something like 17 times or something. It was pretty crazy how much. Yeah, last year. So good time to clean out your basement. And just remember that if you bring anything to Ahuska on the 23rd, that it should not have light bulbs or batteries in it. Any plan commission requests of city staff? No? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll move adjournment.
Do I have a second?
Come on, somebody.
Look at me, I made the motion.
Yeah. I'll second.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
The meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Just pick one.
Could have been a really quick meeting if you weren't having technical difficulties.
I know.